Okay, awesome. All right, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and get started just so we could end on time. So thank you so much for being here for our workshop on identifying and developing transferable skills for rising undocumented professionals. So again, my name is Christian Gonzalez. I'm the Assistant Coordinator at Undocumented Student Services. And today we have a guest speaker joining us, one of my very favorite people in the world. Nedy Velasquez Ledesma is currently a community organizer at Justice Overcoming Boundaries. And she was also an alum of not only Undocumented Student Services, but also of UCSD. She was our policy and advocacy intern for, I believe it's 2 to 3 years, right, Nedy? Yes, 2 years. And so 2 years, yes. And so I'm very happy that she is joining us today to share her experiences and her skills and how she was able to take everything that she learned as an undergrad and even before then, and then apply them to her current position, her current role and her current position. And then go ahead and you want to introduce yourself, Alondra?
Yes, well, I don't think we have anyone new yet, so
Okay.
You should all know me by now. I'm Alondra, your professional development peer coach. I'm happy to see all of you who are present today. It's been a while. So before we go on, I do have a few announcements. So first announcement before this one is everyone who is a part of the fellowship, you all are required to meet with me either week 8, 9, or 10. So make sure you make your appointment. I only meet on Wednesdays, but if that doesn't work for you, email me and we can work something else out. And so now this slide, Family Feud Game Night. So Undoc is hosting our first community event of the academic year this Friday at 6. So we will be having a Family Feud Game Night, and it's a great opportunity to see others and, forget about your school stress for a while. So we really encourage you to sign up and join us. It'll be really fun. And you can find the sign up link on our Instagram bio, or you can scan the QR code with your phone. Next slide. Yes, so 2 more announcements. The first is, if you don't already know, Undoc does provide e-gift cards for students to use on groceries and restaurants. So you could be receiving anything from $50 to $200 per month. And all you have to do is fill out a simple application every 3 months since the day you applied. And if you qualify, you will receive a confirmation email and start receiving your gift cards. It's really easy. So apply and take advantage of these free resources that we can offer you. And then the second flyer you see there is Undoc also has an equity grant that provides students with money for graduate school preparation and leadership or professional development events. So essentially, if you need money to buy graduate school prep books or you want to attend a conference, that can be applied to leadership and professional development. Undoc can help cover those costs for you. In the past, the grant has helped students cover things such as conference registration, travel-related expenses, graduate entrance exam, and many other things. You can receive up to $1,000 as long as you apply. It's as simple as applying. And you can find the application on our website, our Instagram and Facebook profiles, and we highly encourage you to take advantage of these resources. Next slide.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alondra. Yes, so please take advantage of our resources and reach out to Alondra if you have any questions. I'm also available for questions as well. So I will go ahead and get started. So the purpose of this presentation is for us to identify and further develop transferable skills. And so why is this important? So first of all, a transferable skill is the ability to do something well, something you have a level of expertise in. This could be something that you have developed over time, whether it was through an interest or something that you learned either in a class or in another professional setting. Transferable skills are qualities that you can apply to most job, educational, or vocational settings, meaning that just because you learn one skill in one area, doesn't mean that it has to stay in that area. You can you can transfer it to another position, another occupation, another setting. So that way you're not just, keeping those specific skills categorized in those specific places that you've been in, but more so you're able to then transfer them to other opportunities. This is very important because this will bring leverage to future opportunities. So when you do apply for either graduate school or apply for a job or an internship or a fellowship, you're able to then talk about those skills that you gained and apply them to future opportunities. So that way you can speak to the experiences that you've had that could make you a great candidate for any of those opportunities. And then something that I've identified is that utilizing transferable skills and identifying them is a skill in and of itself. And so what I mean by this is if you are in an interview and they ask you about one specific experience that you have, and they say, how does this relate to this current position that you're applying to? And especially if those two opportunities don't really coincide, if they're not in the same field, you're then able to, think quick on your feet and say, yes, like I'm able to, relate my previous experience to this current position that I'm applying to. So this will utilizing and then identifying transferable skills is a skill which it involves critical thinking, kind of like thinking, on your feet and making sure that you're able to, think fast and speak to the skills that you have. And so this is actually an example that I wanted to highlight as kind of going along those lines. So a few months ago, actually this might have been more than like a year ago, I met with a student who was thinking of applying to an internship in the tech field, but they were, I believe, majoring in computer science or cognitive science. And they said that they didn't have any actual experience, in this specific field or with that specific company. And so they said, and they had only worked in working as a cashier in a fast food restaurant. And I remember telling them, think about all the skills that you learned as a cashier in this fast food restaurant and think about how they can apply to another field. And so I actually provided an example of myself. So fun fact about me, when I was in high school, I spent my summers teaching young children how to fish. We would teach them like the fish anatomy, ethics, teaching them how to cast, teaching them about the different species, specifically in Colorado, so that way they could appreciate really the environment. And that was my only real experience working. And so when I went to college at the University of Colorado, I was really looking for a job, and the only job that they were hiring for was working in the financial aid office. And so I applied and I got an interview. And one of the last questions that the interviewer asked me was, you only have experience teaching kids how to fish and, being outdoors. How does that relate to financial aid? And so I had to really think about my skills that I gained in this position, teaching kids how to fish, and how does that apply to what I would be doing in the financial aid office, which was helping students. And so these are the skills that I specifically learned when I was working in the summers teaching kids how to fish. I learned how to be patient. If you have been around young children, you know that they sometimes can be a little impatient, especially when it comes to an activity like fishing. You have to, cast your line and just kind of wait until, you get a bite. And so for me, I really learned patience because young children get really, really just antsy, and they're like, I want to see my fish. I want to be able to, just to get it right away. And so that for me, it taught me patience. The other one is it taught me problem solving. Whenever young children would sometimes they would get in fights with each other. Sometimes they would get their lines stuck with with one another. And so that for me taught me problem solving. How am I supposed to, either, get these kids to settle down, or how am I supposed to untangle this line because these young kids got their lines stuck. Working with people and youth, learning communication skills, teamwork, public speaking. We had to do presentations. And so in my very nervousness, I was able to identify all of the things that I learned, all of the skills that I gained in my 4 summers of teaching kids how to fish, and then apply them to how can I take that to a financial aid setting, which is an office. Like, we never went outside. And so for me, it was still having patience when working with parents and students, learning how to problem solve, learning how to troubleshoot, still working with students, communication with other team members and students, teamwork to make sure that we do everything that we can to serve students, and then also public speaking and providing presentations. And so when I was meeting with the student, telling them, like, this is one way in which you can take all of your skills in your position as a cashier and then, transfer them over to this internship in the tech field. So I think oftentimes students and young folks, they get stuck on not having enough experience, but don't realize that you have gained so much experience and so many skills in other areas that you just need to learn how to identify them and then transfer them over. So that way they could, appeal to this new setting. Okay, so now I am going to show a very short 2-minute clip from this this individual who, his name is Jason Chen, and he works in the tech field. Specifically, he works for Etsy, I believe. So I am just going to go ahead and show this. So hopefully it works. Can you all hear it fine? Yes? Yes, no?
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh no, I messed it up. Okay. All right. So I want to go ahead and turn it over to you all. So it was just a very short clip. I'll go ahead and actually send it when I upload this to YouTube. I'll go ahead and attach the link so y'all can watch the rest of the video. But I want to ask you all. So Jason Chen majored in biology. He had 2 degrees in biology, but is now leading a career in tech. What skills do you believe he utilized to make the transition in careers? So go ahead and ask you all, what skills do you all believe he utilized to be able to, make a good pitch for himself when he applied at Etsy?
I think he's detailed oriented and he has problem solving skills.
Yes, that absolutely. He is detail oriented, and when he said that he submitted a proposal that had, I think, four ideas. That is him utilizing his skills, possibly in biology, right? You have to be very specific and you have to know the details, and his ability to problem solve as well, right? The one part that he also said is that he didn't know how he was going to break into this industry. So what did he do? He utilized skills that he already knew. He did research. He solved a problem that he felt would enable him from achieving that position. So here, thank you, Dalia. All right. What else? What other skills did you all identify?
Like communication, sales, marketing, knowing how to look at IPOs. I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
And yes.
yes.
And persevering. Yes. And also persevering his failures, because he was turned down by Google and other big companies, but he didn't stop there.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Isaiah. Yes. So and you listed a few, but the one specifically was perseverance, right? He didn't just stop there, and he knew that he was going to face some challenges due to his background, right? And so what did he do? He kept on going, and he presented something that was great, even though he had no prior experience. Good. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the next question. Jason mentioned a study that states that 1/4 of people in careers are in careers related to their major, meaning the majority of folks are in careers that are not related to their major. Why do you think that is? And how do you think that happens?
I guess like the different opportunities that always comes in surface because imagine you did go into biology and being a professional researcher, but then you got a bigger opportunity and that's at hand that has nothing to do with biology, yet you're curious and interested in pursuing. So you are challenging yourself to go out there and search for new ideas and skills you want to develop. So I guess that's one of the reasons can yeah take you to that route.
Yes, yes, Isaiah, you're absolutely correct, and it happens with for where folks they have one career, but then they get another opportunity, right? And then they pursue that opportunity. And this could also, talking about transferable skills, is that they have certain skills, and something that I forgot to mention that I really enjoyed was the title of his talk is called "Highlight Your Ability, Not Experience." And so for when people make the switch and they are offered another opportunity, they're highlighting their ability, what skills they have to be able to be successful in that new industry. So yes, Isaiah, you're absolutely right. And I think the other piece is that people, again, have that skills and they're able to identify how they're able to take their abilities and then transfer them to another role. So good. Anybody else have any other thoughts?
Maybe it's like the lack of job at that time that you're looking for a job, which is, yeah, sometimes it happens. So maybe that's why people search jobs in a different area.
Yeah, Dalia, that's correct. When uh, when folks are majoring or they're focused on specific fields through their major, they may not be able to find something that is available within their, what their intended, area was, and then they're able to um, again utilize their skills and then apply them to something else. So that's correct. It's either out of necessity or another opportunity that comes out to where folks have to kind of redirect their goals or redirect their path to be able to pursue something else. Again, it's either out of necessity or it's because a new opportunity arises. So awesome. So thank you, Dalia. Thank you, Isaiah, for contributing. And we'll still have more opportunities to engage later on. So yes, thank you. Okay, so where do transferable skills come from? As mentioned, transferable skills come from either work, skills attained through previous work experience, whether if you've done like project management, finance, customer service, if you've had to do like any like analytical work, that all comes from your job. Other skills come from school. It could be skills attained in an academic setting, whether it's in a classroom or something that is more hands-on. Specifically, and one I should have mentioned this in the examples is when learning how to work in a team. And I know that we all are not big fans of team projects or group projects, but that kind of gives us our very first insight into what is it like to work in a team, right? Whenever we're putting group projects. So that's a skill that is developed when you're basically from K through 12 and even in college. Another skill could come from a hobby, whether you're creative or whether you have a commitment. And the commitment piece could come from the dedication of you like learning something like dancing or learning how to draw or learning how to mix music, things like that. So that could come from a hobby that you do so for so long that it becomes a skill and something that you would be utilizing. And then the other one is life. A skill could be developed if you have gone through unique life situations where you have to be adaptable, you have to be compassionate, you have to be a good listener, especially if you encounter certain situations where you have to support other people, right? So this is where all transferable skills come from. And so let's say a skill that you gained through life is something that you may apply through work. Like for example, learning how to listen or learning how to provide feedback or learning how to engage others. That could very much be applied to different areas of your life. So when thinking about transferable skills, let's think about also where they come from and how they could be developed in the future. And so here, I'm going to go ahead and go into the four ways to identify transferable skills. And so what we recommend is to create a list of your skills. And so with each skill listed, identify where it was developed, whether it was school, work, volunteer, home, and then actually specify where. So for example, when I taught kids how to fish, I specifically learned that through the Colorado Division of Wildlife. So that's one area, that's where I learned that specific skill. And then the other part is how long it was developed for. So if you have a skill of public speaking that you've done consistently for like more than a year, 2 years, make sure that you write down how long you've had that skill and how long you've been developing it. And going into the next part is when thinking about skills, it's important to identify the difference between soft skills and hard skills. So soft skills relate to how you work. This includes interpersonal / people skills, communication skills, listening, time management, empathy, compassion, among others. And so this is more of the skills that are most likely developed over time, whether it is through experience, like personal experience, or it could even be through you, if you work in customer service or if you work analyzing data. This is where all of these skills, come from. The hard skills include specific knowledge and abilities required for success in a job. So these skills are typically learned. So if you are working in data or in a STEM or kind of a hard science field, you may be required to learn a specific software, or you may have to be aware of specific like work materials that are familiar to that specific field. And so the difference between soft skills and hard skills will definitely be able to, you'll be able to identify certain positions that are right for you and that you will be able to do well based off of your already, acquired skills. And then this is a very long list of the hard skills, which, as I mentioned, it could be like analytics, down to learning software, spreadsheets. If you are very knowledgeable of Excel, that is a very impressive hard skill that I feel like oftentimes we put on our resume without really knowing how much detail and how just vast, and just I feel like Excel is just one of those like mysteries of the world because it's so helpful, but it's also very, very intricate. And so that is an example of a hard skill. If you are just a whiz when it comes to Excel, or if you are very knowledgeable with like JavaScript, or even if you know a language, those are skills that are going to be so useful no matter wherever you go. And so it's important for you all to be aware of what these hard skills are, so that way you can then speak about them in a future opportunity. Soft skills, and again, these are more of the personal attributes. So that's being adaptable, being a good communicator, being a creative thinker, having good time management, motivation, problem solving. So these are more of the skills that, again, they are not as concrete, but again, this is more developed over time, and it looks different with different people. I feel like with some of the hard skills, when it comes to assessing someone's proficiency, there is like an assessment, there's a way to measure the hard skills. Whereas the soft skills, these are a little bit more flexible because it really is dependent on the person, and it is dependent on either the job that they're performing. So again, it's important to be aware of the difference between the two, and knowing that there's still qualities that are going to be sought after in future professional positions. 2 is to list the skills that you need for a desired opportunity. For this specific bullet point, I wanted to specifically focus on, so I have 2 examples of positions. So this one, as an example, is an IT internship that is actually happening the summer of 2021. And so this position is currently open on LinkedIn. So if you all attended the LinkedIn, the networking workshop, please utilize LinkedIn because they do have a lot of opportunities right now. So when it comes to a specific position, it's identifying what the what the description, what the responsibilities are, and then seeing if you can actually connect any of your skills to what they're already offering or what they're asking for. This is another example. So this specifically is an example of a consultant position. This actually already closed. This was open over the summer. And so this position is specifically to be a consultant for undocumented student services at UC Santa Cruz. And this position did not require a work permit because it is a consultant role. And so for this one specifically, it's looking at what the position would be doing and then kind of like analyzing what the specific roles would be of the position. So again, when you're pursuing an opportunity, or if you're, applying to grad school and you're trying to look for different requirements and what that organization or agency is looking for, it's important for you to know how to identify the specific skills that are required. And then the next part is just circle the skills that correlate with to the position. So specifically here, so I just circled data analysis, project management, and here within the technologies, this speaks to all of the hard skills. So if you are proficient and you have experience in these technologies, or at least in some of them, you'll be able to, again, be a successful candidate for this position. Same thing with this consultant position. So for this one, it's consult, advise, and develop programs. So this is program development. And so if you, for example, have developed any kind of either an activity, or if you've developed a specific project, you can actually speak to this, because when interviewers ask you, can you talk about your experience with program development and or project development, you're able to then draw from your experiences and then apply them to this current example, right? Same thing with conduct outreach to students who will benefit from this initiative, and analyze. So this analyze is, it's meaning that you're going to be assessing specific data. And so that is another skill that is going to be important to highlight if you have taken a class in either statistics, or if you've taken any kind of like math class, or any kind of class where you have to deal with quantitative or qualitative data. You are going to be, well versed when it comes to analyzing, this content. Next, outline the skills that can be proven. So with this specific section is for data analysis. If you have examples of any work that you've done in the past, or like I mentioned in the previous slide, if you have any experience, like concrete experience with project management, it would be the same thing. You would be able to then talk about and maybe even provide in a portfolio, like this is the work that I've done within this specific project. Same thing with this as well, is that if you have concrete examples of either programs, and this example of the consultant is unique to the IT internship, because this is serving a specific population of individuals. So this is serving undocumented students. The other skill would be having the knowledge of undocumented student populations and knowing about barriers and challenges. So that's another piece to be aware of, is when approaching a specific position and it's serving a specific population or purpose for you, it's important for you to be well aware of that specific, again, population, so that way you can, either draw from your personal experiences or even draw from other experiences that you've had in the past, and your ability to get the job done. And then when it comes to further developing your skills, we recommend that you visit the Career Center. They have, and I only took a very small screenshot of this, but they do have assessment, like assessments where you can identify certain strengths and skills that you have. So that way, when you go into a specific field, or if you go into a specific job, and then you you're asked to speak on them, you can actually say, based off of my experience, but also off of, assessments, I am skilled at this area, or I have strengths in experience in this area. So I highly recommend that you all visit the Career Center and look under their resources, so that way you can, start identifying these skills and developing them in the future. But also, if there's any opportunities, whether it's taking an assessment that costs money, or even going on a conference, or taking, let's say, like a class that maybe is outside of UCSD that will help you enhance your skills, please let us know, because that is a good opportunity for you to apply for the equity grant. So this is not only meant for, obviously, professional development, but to help you expand your skills and be more competitive in really anything that you want to pursue in the future. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to our guest speaker, Nedy.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today. Undocumented Student Services holds a super important and special place in my heart. And so, I'm always happy to be back. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to give you a really brief synopsis of my life, just to so you kind of have an idea of what my life was like leading up to, looking for jobs and how that relates to my job experience. So I was born in Querétaro, Mexico, and I immigrated to the United States when I was 7 years old. I've been living in Escondido, California, which is like 30 minutes north of UCSD. For, I'm 23 now, so it's been a couple of years. And my really civic engagement began when I was really young, because my mom, when we immigrated to the United States, she became a house cleaner. And she got connected to another house cleaner who was really invested in house cleaners' rights, and also had a daughter who was undocumented herself. And so they kind of involved us in this movement to push for legislation and just kind of, learn about the kind of rights that we were able to have. And I think it was really important for my mom, because she could see that, she was being exploited in the workplace, and as an undocumented person herself, she didn't have a way to really, express that, or didn't know how or if she could do so. So she always, had me along, and I was always there just listening in and taking in those conversations about the kind of public action and activism that I could have within my own community, even at 7 years old. And so, but interestingly enough, I although I was doing that kind of work externally, I was really not comfortable disclosing my status and talking about the kind of person that, the world or the United States made me out to be, because I always heard being undocumented as a connotation. And so I kept that to myself. And also I wasn't encouraged to talk about that. And so I've grappled with internal conflict for a really long time, thinking that I always had to be the perfect immigrant, quote unquote, right? And that I had to be kind of this all-American, Mexican-American. Even the title Mexican-American is difficult was difficult because I, technically wasn't even considered that here. And so I think I lost a couple of things through just always kind of making myself be this perfect figure of being a cheerleader, doing all these things that were like typical of what you would, hear of as being American. And so that was really hard for me, but I learned to let go of that in high school, during that high school to college transition, because it was the time where I pretty much had to, as you'll probably know, having to apply to the DREAM Act instead of FAFSA. And so having those different, having to go that different route when everybody else was being told to do FAFSA really singled me out. But it was kind of at that point where I realized that being DACA recipient, or even just being undocumented, like my identity as an undocumented person made me really strong and have a kind of voice that I had not embraced for a really long time. And so that was the moment that I told myself that I really wanted to get involved and engaged as an undocumented person externally, so that everybody knew that I was undocumented and that, you know, I still had a voice and I wanted to do something about the situation and the gravity of the situation. And so that was a really important time in my life to, you know, push me in the direction, because I am now a community organizer in Justice Overcoming Boundaries here in my city in Escondido. And so I attended Palomar College. My teachers had told me that I was an AVID, and I don't know if you know what the AVID program is, but it's basically, you know, a program, a high school program where they help low-income individuals, you know, students of color to transition from high school to a four-year university. And them just always telling us that if we didn't make it to a four-year, that we would be failures and that we would get pregnant, we would stay in our hometowns, we would do all these things, right? That we weren't going to be successful and that we couldn't be the people that they had told us to be. And so that was really difficult for me to navigate, just because, so for my city, I live in Escondido, we have this thing called the Sprinter. It's like a train, and it takes you along through Cal State San Marcos. And so I would always have to go past Cal State San Marcos to get to my community college. And just watching that happen every single day was kind of a punch to my stomach, because of that feeling that I had of like being worthless to so many people, right? Even though I had already kind of come to terms with the identity that I wanted to have. So that was hard, but I pushed through that, you know, and I said, okay, so these people have an expectation of me to fail, so I'm going to prove them wrong. And so that really was kind of a catalyst for me, and in many ways, I think developed a skill, right? As we're talking about these soft skills of, okay, so you consider that my, you know, my being is gonna not, or that I'm not gonna succeed, so I'm gonna use that and use it as potential and as like perseverance, as I think Isaiah said. So that's one skill that I guess I'm talking about now. But yeah, so I transferred to I went from Palomar College and then transferred to UCSD, and yeah, that transition was awesome. It was through them that through Palomar that I got involved in my Senate, student Senate, and I got to go to Washington, D.C. and lobby for immigrants' rights, just because, and not just immigrants' rights, but even student advocacy. And it was just something that I wanted to do. When I saw it on the billboard, I thought, oh, this is something I think I want to do. And so, yeah, I used that. And then when I transferred to UCSD, it took me a whole quarter to find Undoc Student Services. But as soon as I did, I said, this is my place. I'm going to work to make it the best, most like hospitable place for everyone, right? As much as I can. And I still wasn't hired as policy intern for the center, but I knew that, you know, the people that were there truly identified with me and understood what it was like to be undocumented, brown, you know, these different identities that I hold. And so I made it a thing to really get ingrained and become involved there. And I think another skill is Daniel, you know, the coordinator, saw that I had people skills and that I was really trying to become relational with others. And I think, I don't know this to be true, but I think this is why I was hired. I think he saw that I could make connections with people. And so that might have been one of the reasons that I got hired. I don't know that. I would have to verify, but I think that's what it is. And so, yeah, after I graduated, I faced a lot of post-grad stress and confusion because well, I had a couple issues, you know, with graduation, but also just trying to find my place in the world, right, and figuring out the kind of work I wanted to do. So I really wanted to mention that just so you all know that if you go through that, it's totally fine. It's totally normal. I mean, in terms of being normal, right? Like, you're not alone. It's a very common thing to happen to you. So definitely deal with those emotions, and your emotions are valid. And so feel those if you have to, because that's also part of growing a skill, right? Understanding being compassionate and understanding other people's experiences. So yes, feel those emotions if you need to. Okay, next slide. Yeah, so as a policy intern for Undoc services, I pretty much, this is a picture of the second legislative advocacy program I did. And to backtrack, I don't know that I explained this, but basically the legislative advocacy program was a 2-quarter program where we taught about 13 students how to lobby their representatives and really kind of make them leaders. We focused specifically on immigration bills and to, pro-immigration bills to improve our communities. But one of the things that I developed doing this program was, organizing and developing materials. We pretty much had to create a program from scratch and really make it out to be something really big, right? Where the students themselves could see that they were gaining their own personal skills. And so that was really important for me. I think, again, social and emotional intelligence was super important, and collaboration. In order to have successful lobby visits in, the state Senate, Congress, you have to be able to have those really good persuasive skills and even time management, because you only have 15 minutes to talk to a representative, and if they don't, sometimes they'll be like, I have 5. So you have to say, okay, how do we rearrange everything we just learned thinking that we have 30 minutes? Now you have 5, so how do you do that? And so those skills were really super important for me in my development. And again, this isn't even something that you would have to be a policy intern to know. It's just, how do you implement collaboration skills? Are you really good with people? Those really important key skills can really lead you to the job that you want without having it to be, this. Okay, next slide. Yeah, and so my professional experience, so I first started as a student senator of Helmar College, and I wanted to highlight that one specifically because I just wanted to pretty much let you all know that you can start small. It doesn't, I think sometimes we have expectations that things have to be like, oh, you want to aspire to be something and suddenly you're there. It's going to take a long time. And so I definitely want to emphasize that, this is going to be a long journey. Sometimes it's going to be a treacherous journey, but it's really possible. And starting small and not overwhelming yourself with all these limited possibilities, and also unlimited possibilities, and also watching people kind of talk about their own goals and their own achievements, that can get really overwhelming. So just not confusing that for your own perspective and your own goals for yourself, because that could be really limiting. And you're doing your thing and you know what it is that you want to do. So yeah, definitely separating those things. And then from becoming a senator, I used that to apply for this internship that the Democratic Congressional Campaign, the DCCC had in Washington, D.C. I didn't actually go there. It was an online internship, but I think even developing the skill of just asking professors if there's, something that they can, that they have for you, because that's how I got my internship. I just asked my professor if he had any opportunities, and he was like, here, there's this, you can apply for it. And that was really valuable to me, because I think slowly I started building my portfolio, or pretty much my resume, and on these things that I was creating, right? Just by simply asking, it was leading me to the next step. And suddenly it was getting better, right? Like I was getting to do things that I really wanted to do. Even though this has always been stuff I want to do, I think it's just building on that. It was getting greater and greater. And I don't know if you can see, but that's Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who I got accepted for her internship, but unfortunately there was conflicting, times, because I was at the UCDC program and it just didn't align. But I just wanted to show you that, and Maxine Waters too, some of my heroes. But yeah, so I just wanted you to see them because I really enjoy them. But yeah, so I was a congressional intern for Congresswoman Alma Adams in DC. She's from North Carolina, the 12th district, so not in California, but I learned a lot from that. And from her, I think it was also important to get out of my own comfort zone in my own state, and maybe even like learn from a different one, right? And see what those possibilities are, because I think that in itself develops a different skill, right? Getting out of your comfort zone and really expanding your horizons and learning from, you know, maybe people or things that you haven't. So I think that was really key for my experience and my development. As of now, I'm doing something that is literally the exact same thing that I did at Undocumented Student Services, but at the Advocacy Corps for the Friends Committee on National Legislation, which is pretty much recruiting people from my community to lobby on immigrants' rights in DC. So, I mean, literally, if I can say that Undocumented Student Services was just such a important aspect for my own growth, I really mean it. And I know that there are other aspects probably in your life that can meet the same kind of standard that I met through Undoc Student Services, if that makes any sense. So yeah, and I also work full-time for an organization called Justice Overcoming Boundaries, where we also teach people how to, you know, everyday common people, how to become leaders in their own communities and really focus and zone in on what it is that they are hoping to build upon in their community. And so, yeah, that's my job right now. But I found my, Christian, how much time do I have? There's something that I found.
Yes, yes. Yeah, go ahead and share. We have about 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. So real quickly, I found the job description that I was forwarded to the job I currently have as community organizer. And I'll just highlight the skills and qualifications that they were asking for, because I was like, oh my gosh, this job was made for me, right? So it asks for like experience as a community or labor organizer, experience working with diverse populations, including various faith traditions, immigrants, and different abilities strongly desired. I don't know, strong team player, and, you know, strong attention to detail. So, or working with elected officials, and all of these things combined, I thought, you know, were me. And I guess it translated positively and helped me achieve what I wanted. So I just want you all to know that you can do it. It's hard, but it's not impossible. And you've persevered through a lot of things. And I just know that, you know, there are good things for you out there, and times are difficult. COVID doesn't help, but like, I believe in you all. So thanks. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Nedy, for, I miss you a lot. I miss seeing you, but I know that you're doing great things. And yes, Nedy actually, I think she needs to give herself a lot of credit for creating, not only did she lead it, but she did create the legislative advocacy program, and really helped not only, you know, teach students about the legislative process, but also she coordinated the logistics of, I believe, 2 or 3 visits to Sacramento. So there's a lot that Nedy has contributed to the center, and we're just really proud of her, because Nedy is exactly who we knew she would be, which is a leader and really an advocate for immigrant rights. So we're so happy, and I'm so proud of Nedy, and I'm really happy that she, you know, took the time. She's very busy. She was just mentioning that about her job, but I'm glad that she connected with us. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to just questions. If you all have questions for Nedy about her experience, about any of her skills, or it could even be some about her undergrad experience. If there was something that she mentioned earlier that you want her to elaborate, this is the time for you all to ask her questions. They could also be in the chat if you would like.
Also, I forgot to say, but I can put my email down in the chat, and, you know, feel free to email me whenever you want. I'll be happy to answer you.
Yes, yes, yes. And also, Nedy, do you have a LinkedIn?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, can you also include your LinkedIn on the chat? We had a workshop earlier about networking in LinkedIn, so you all, if you all would like to connect with Nedy via LinkedIn, that also works. Any questions for Nedy?
I ask, how was your experience in Washington, I think? And like, talk a little bit more about that.
Cool, no, absolutely. DC was actually one of the best experiences of my entire life. I have a bad relationship with my own work ways because I think I work way too much. So I had 2 different internships, and I think that made really exploring the city very difficult because it was like you usually keep a day to go to your class because I think it's like a 3-hour class that you take for one day, and then one day a week, and then you can use the rest to, like, you know, explore the city or do whatever you want. So I didn't really have that opportunity, but it was really fun. I really enjoyed being able to kind of see myself as a working individual during my undergrad year. I mean, it's still obviously a little bit different because you're kind of in a bubble. Like, you're still not technically, you know, fully out there as a full-time employee, but it definitely gave me that idea of the kind of individual I was going to be, a working individual, right? After graduating. And it was really great because I had, I don't know if you remember the girl you saw in the picture, her name's Nedy, and she's also, she was part of Undoc Student Services as well. And we didn't know that we were both going to DC at the same time, and it just so happened that she was, and we were like, do you want a room together? So we did, and really just having that community of, or pretty much her, a friend that I knew and that I like cared for, was made it that much better because I didn't feel the shock of DC, because DC is very like, we're here to work and like don't play around, you know. It's very strict in that way. So I was happy to have somebody that I knew I could have support from, because yes, some things were hard to identify as somebody who's, you know, low income and a person of color. Sometimes just navigating those experiences with people who don't have your experiences and don't really understand where you come from and what you know, what you've experienced makes it really hard. So just having that was, that relationship and that support was really important, and super fun. Yeah. So let me know if you are thinking, I know right now with COVID it's a little difficult, but if it's something that you're considering in the future and things get better, like, I'll feel free to, you know, give you input on or advice on anything you need for that.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Nedy. Any other questions for Nedy? I know we have about 3 minutes.
Yeah, Nedy, I was wondering, like, was there ever a job that had like a really intimidating skill set, like on their application, that kind of like kept you from applying? And like, based on what you know now about like your skills that you had then and identifying those skills, do you think like you would have been qualified to apply?
Well, so I actually did apply for a job. I know you're asking if I didn't apply to it because I was intimidated by it. The one I'm thinking of, I did apply to it, but it wasn't something that I thought I could get. It was a political consulting firm. I really was just thinking like, oh, here, I'm gonna give it a shot, but I wasn't expecting anything out of it. Because, you know, I didn't really have that much experience as it related to fully working alongside campaigns and stuff. So, I mean, yes and no. So I did apply, but I definitely didn't consider that to be something that I was going to get. Just something that I could give it a shot at, and, you know, because I had really nothing to lose doing it. But yeah, sorry, I don't think I answered your question. I just, because for a long time, I didn't believe in my own ability, so I just wouldn't apply to a bunch of internships, right, or a bunch of work descriptions and stuff. I just kind of didn't. And then I said, somebody once told me, like, what are you gonna lose by applying? And I was like, oh, you're right. Like, a rejection, I mean, that hurts, but I'm not gonna lose anything. So yeah, and since then I just started kind of applying to different places. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nedy. Yeah, and you actually did answer the question if you felt that like you didn't have the skills, right, to apply for these like positions that seemed out of reach. But over time, as you identify your own skills and you feel like within yourself, you know, like, I can do this job, you know, I absolutely have the abilities. That's when you started gaining the confidence. But so I'm glad that you're, you know, still going out there and applying for really good and impressive positions that are, within your passions and within your skill sets. And so yeah, you absolutely did answer the question. So yes. Okay, so we do have a minute. Any last words, Nedy?
No, just, I know sometimes it feels like it's hard to believe in yourself, but please do. Like, just please do. You're so capable of so many things, and really don't let external people who don't even really know your life tell you that you can't do things, because they don't know you and they don't know your potential. So don't let them limit you and what you can do. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you so much, Nedy.
Mhm.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up. So just another reminder that Alondra and Kelly are available for peer coaching. So if you want to identify and develop more of your skills, please, connect with Alondra. If you are more wanting to learn about entrepreneurship and income generating opportunities without a work permit, please connect with Kelly. And that is it for our workshop. Thank you so much, Nedy, for attending and for providing just such good, valuable feedback and your experiences. I really appreciate it. I miss you. And thank you so much for giving back to the community.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, everybody.